Hello and welcome to Deadline Day. This is the first in the series of the late mail for 25 to 26 FPL season. Game week 1 is here. It's exciting. Everyone's panicking. They're last minute. They're fretting. Do I go Salah? Do I go Mo Salah? Do I go Haaland? Do I go no Haaland? Do I go Bruno? Well, today I've got the late mail of all your questions answered, and we're now introducing a special section. This is the thing you need to look at before you do your decisions, because we're going to have some fun. We've got the card as its own section in this video as well, so keep your eye out for that. We have a look at my team going into the deadline stream, and it's barely changed since my team selection. Actually, only one player's changed at the moment. With all that being said, we've got a lot to cover, and I don't want to hold you back too long. This is the place to be on deadline day. Forget the cartel. The cartel is done. The D-Unit's coming for them, and everyone's on board the bandwagon. And with that being said, smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, because this is going to take off this channel, and share it with your friends as well. And leave me a comment with your deadline day decisions. And with that being said, let's go. So the hot off the press. Now, I've covered a little bit about hot off the press because I think it is relevant. There were a couple of manager press conferences yesterday. In fact, there was 6 that I read through. I might have missed some, so don't quote me on that. And I have paraphrased a bunch in this with basically what I think. So Sunderland have made 11 signings this summer, and basically the manager, Lefrey, I think his name is, he's French, I believe. He basically said there could be more signings to come. Now, when you make that many wholesale changes, we saw it when Forest came up. Quite often, it takes a while for them to click, and Forest that year almost got relegated. So there's no reason to think that Sunderland are going to do any better. Yes, they look like they've signed some good players, but I expect them to take a fair while to get used to the Premier League and playing with each other. So for that reason, West Ham surely has to be odds-on favourites, even though it is at the Stadium of Light. I think they still play there. Then we got on to Brentford. Wisser is not going to be available. That was confirmed. Realistically, Andrews basically said that Wisser's probably going, because I can't see any way in the world that he comes back there. Then we got news that Hickey, Henry and Thiago are pretty much going to be like new signings, because they pretty much did not play last season. So they should be and could be available, and they realistically, I think that potentially they might play. Based on what he said. He did say that Shard is on the grass, so he is still an injury doubt. That probably means that he's not going to be starting if he's on the grass. I'd suggest he's probably going to be fit enough to be on the bench, but again, we don't know, but that's personally what I think. He also talked a bit about Carvalho and how good he's been, so maybe he is going to be the starting right winger, but it looks like Fabrizio Romano has also posted overnight that Dango Otara might be coming in, so what does that mean for Carvalho's minutes? I'm not sure, or Lewis Potter's. Dango Otara probably, if he's coming in for that money, is definitely going to be in the starting lineup. And he could be an absolute bargain at 6 mil, but I don't think he can go there just yet. West Ham, Mr. Potter, Harry Potter, basically said that everyone's pretty much available. Most of the assets that we're going to be looking at are available. He was very coy, though, on the goalkeeper situation. Didn't want to commit. He just basically said, you'll have to find out on the weekend, which basically tells me that Areola is going to be on the bench. But I could be wrong, and maybe I've read that wrong, but that's definitely something that I think is likely to happen. Then we go on to Bournemouth. Now, Diakate has been signed. He is eligible to play. He's in the game. He comes in at 4.5 million. Areola was pretty coy again on whether he'll start, but I think potentially he is going to start because they kind of need him. He did say that Cook, Christie, Clivert are all set to miss, as well as Sinistera, or whatever his name is. Apparently, he potentially might be on the move as well. And obviously, Dango Otara, we don't know about him because of the fact that this bid's going in, so I would suggest he's probably not going to be playing. Then we go on to Fulham. Silva basically said that the window has been no good for Fulham and that they need to start getting their act into gear because they are getting left behind by everyone, and literally they've been linked with a winger. The only injury though that they've got out at the moment is Robinson, so Robinson will miss this game. Muniz is in contention, but he has been linked with a move to Atlanta and Serie A, and I think if there's traction there, I don't think we're likely to see him. That probably is really good for Raul Jimenez's minutes to begin the season because there's no one else there to take minutes off him. So for that reason, I think he could be really good. Then lastly, Liverpool's slot basically said it'll be a very hard Premier League to win this year. He did say that Frimpong and Bradley can make Mo Salah better. I disagree, mate. I think you're talking absolute baloney. He didn't give any update. In fact, it was really interesting. Whatever press conference or whatever parts I watched, there was no question about how long Connor Bradley's going to be injured for. So your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. And I'd say he's probably not starting. So Frimpong's probably a lock for the first couple of weeks would be my honest assessment. So moving on to some of your questions that you've sent in. And look, Jared Branthwaite is obviously injured. He did his hamstring. Now, potentially he might only be out for a week or a couple. It's not a too bad a one. So, but realistically, is he going to be available for the first international break? Probably not. Does this mean that Tarkowski, how does this impact him? I think the likelihood of clean sheets for Everton has drastically dropped with Branthwaite out. We noticed last season that when he was out, Everton's defence was nowhere near as good as when it was in. So for that reason, I think if I was on Tarkowski myself, I would be moving away from him as of right now. The next question that goes in line with this is now the time to double up on Forest defence. Well, at the moment, I am on double the Forest defence. I've got Sells in goal and I've got Milinkovic in my own team. And I think game weeks 1 to 6, other than that game week 4 fixture against Arsenal, I think it looks really good in terms of save points, in terms of potential clean sheets, in terms of attacking returns for particularly the likes of Milinkovic. So I quite like that double up. The next question I had was, are the Spurs defenders an option for game week 1 after they perform for PSG, against PSG? Because obviously Romero scored and so did Mickey van der Ven. But I tell you what, if Mickey van der Ven can back up this week, I'll be absolutely shocked. So I don't know about that. And it's still not an option for me. I don't have any Spurs players in my team, and I'm pretty confident by the time the deadline locks in, I won't have any Spurs players in my team either. Do you need a 6 million defender? Again, it comes down to how you want to set up your team. If you want to start there and go for someone, then I just don't know if I like any of the 6 million options to begin the season. There's question marks over so many. We still haven't heard from Pep Guardiola in regards to Guardiola's fitness in terms of Aït-Nouri and things like this. For that reason, I think you can get away with 5.5s. That's the highest I've got in my team. Now, the next question also is Matheus Nunes an option? Yes, he is. Now, he is definitely going to get Pep related. I'm going to flag that straight off the bat. The good news is, though, is that only one game last season did Matheus Nunes not start and come off the bench. So it was only one time he actually didn't start and then came on to get a one-pointer. The good news is when he plays, he's normally pretty good and he can rack up the points. The problem is, how many games is he going to start? So this is where the bench cover comes in place. So if you're going to go with Matheus Nunes, and I don't mind that pick at all, then you sit there and you make sure you have that bench cover. Then, is Anderson a good pick from Fulham? The answer is no. Anderson is not a good pick from Fulham. I don't care which way you spin it. They kept one of the lowest amount of clean sheets in the league last year. He's got no attacking contributions when he's been at Fulham. Why on earth would you go there? I just think there's better options. Chase the upside. 4.5s, just chase the upside and hope for the best. So on to the next couple of questions. These are more to do with the midfield ones, and particularly Aston Villa, who have a very nice run of fixtures to begin the season. Will Rodgers be fit? We're hopefully going. We are going to hear from Emery later today, after this video comes out. Will he play game week 1 is the most common question, and if so, how many minutes will he play? Now, the fact that it's an ankle, it's not a muscle injury, so if it's good to go, it's good to go, and I don't think it'll impact his minutes at all, and he'll probably play 90 minutes. Can I say that with any great certainty? No, but if I was wondering about it, that's the philosophy I would take in. If Emery says he's good to go, I would expect him to play the full game. I don't think he'll play reduced minutes. The next question is, do you go with Rodgers and Watkins in a double up for the Villa fixtures? I think potentially you can, but in my own team, I'm only interested in having one. I'm very spread across all the big teams and how I think they're going to go, and I like taking bets on all of them. So for that reason, I'm probably only going to end up having Watkins, because I think Watkins is a better option than Rodgers, particularly at this point in the season. We know that Watkins is raring to go. He's been in good form in pre-season. There's no reason not to go there. Then, can Marlon cover Rodgers if he is potentially minutes risk? No, he's not. He can't cover him. We don't even know if Marlon's going to be starting, even if Rodgers misses. So he's a punt. He's a massive punt. It's an Emery punt. It's an Emery roulette punt. Let's be honest. I can't sit there and say I have any confidence. I did look at Marlon draft in my own team for a while, and I was like, this is stupid. He got no minutes next to last year, and what's to say that's going to be the same this year? The best 6.5 million mid has to be Sarr. If it's not Sarr, it's probably Ahmad. If it's not Ahmad, it's probably none. It's probably Rice or Rodri. That's my honest opinion. Not going to get any other names about me because they appear later on in this video. The next question, impact of Grealish signing for Everton on Ndiaye. Now, they've obviously got Dewsbury Hall. They've got Jack Grealish. I would suggest Jack Grealish is going to probably be starting on the bench for the first couple of game weeks, but realistically, the person he's coming on for is probably Ndiaye. Now, Everton haven't looked good in pre-season. Moyes has even said they're not ready for the season. What can we expect early doors? I don't think they're going to be good results for Everton. I'd be absolutely shocked if they are. For that reason, I think they're just a complete void, the whole lot of them. And how about Estavio? Now, lots of people have seen him. He was great at the Club World Cup. He's been great for the moments we've seen him in Chelsea in pre-season. Will he actually get a chance in the Premier League? That is the question. I would suggest it's probably off the bench. And for that reason, at that price, pick someone that's a nailed-on minutes monster rather than someone that potentially is playing 30 minutes in a game. So which asset out of those three? And this is the interesting one. So we've got Florian Wirtz, Cody Gakpo, and Hugo Ekitike. A lot of people struggling with Ekitike's name. Surprisingly, I don't appear to be one at this moment in time. And obviously it's a bit weird wearing red and they're wearing red as well, because that's the wrong kind of red. None here to there. Based on last Sunday's game, you'd have to say that Florian Wirtz is the best player to own of these three. He is the same price as Hugo Ekitike. The reason why I also think he's the best price is because I think he's the most nailed. Now, if Isaac somehow does get pulled out of Newcastle, and I don't know how that happens or what happens there, and he goes to Liverpool, that will impact on Hugo Ekitike's minutes, 100%, because that's where Hugo Ekitike is currently playing. It will then directly impact on Cody Gakpo's minutes because Ekitike will probably spend his time going to the left and then up front when Isaac's not playing or whatever. That's why I think it's better to pay up for Florian Wirtz, because I don't think he's going to run into the same issues. Now, maybe he might when the Champions League starts and Szoboszlai ends up taking minutes off him, but realistically, I think the Florian Wirtz is the most nailed. He's probably worth paying an extra mil, but I'm also considering dropping him for Cody Gakpo just to get the extra million. So if you're one of those people like me, it's definitely something worth considering. So this is the question, and I don't have either of them, and I'm not going to lie and say that I've got no FOMO. I don't have any FOMO on Salah at all. I really do believe that man is being overrated for what he's done over the last couple of months of last season, and the fact he's 14.5 mil, I just don't think he's worth it. Yes, I think he'll score tonight against Bournemouth. I wouldn't be surprised if he even got 2 goals, but he needs to get 2 goals to justify his price point. If he only gets 1 goal and gets 10 points, you can cover that with like a Bruno. Bruno can get 10 points without actually scoring with the new rules of DC contributions. So for that reason, I think he's ignorable. I think there's plenty of ways of covering Salah. Haaland, though, is the one that I struggle with because he's nailed on at City. You don't really have to worry about Pep roulette with him. And we know that when he's on, he's going to be scoring. He can score hat-tricks for fun. Like, let's be honest, he can score hat-tricks for fun. It's very rare you get a Mo Salah hat-trick. It's quite common when Haaland's on form that he can bang him out back-to-back games. He does concern me. The one thing that I would say, though, about Haaland is that they've had limited preseason. He didn't do overly well last year. There's a lot of new players in both of these teams. They're going to have to adapt to all the new players around them as much as the new players are going to have to adapt to them. So for that reason, I think potentially they could both start slower than what we've seen historically in the Premier League in Haaland's first 3 seasons here and over Mo Salah's first 6 or 7 years, however long he's been here. So for that reason, I think they aren't essential. Now, lots of people probably sit there, disagree and think I'm an idiot for going against them. That's just my philosophy and I'm quite happy to stick with it. And that's what I'll be doing for Game Week 1. And look, to be honest with you, it's only Game Week 4 where I really want Salah. And Game Week 6 is probably where I want Haaland. And I can definitely move them into my lineups over those weeks in order to get them in. So I'm not overly too concerned I don't have them for Game Week 1. So onto the team as it looks prior to going into the deadline. And the only change I've got here, as you can see, is I've got rid of Gahey from Crystal Palace and I've actually replaced him with Richards, also from Crystal Palace. He is a much better defensive contribution monster, so he could be a definite superhero for my DC universe on the bench. I'm quite happy with the team. As I said, the only thing I really want is to try and bring Collins into the defense. But I'm sitting there, and if I do that, it's realistically going to be Dorgu and Richards that make way. I think the Kuiper and Juve stay, Milinkovic stays, and then it'd be the other 2 that transfer out, like maybe a 4 or 5, or it's Richards to Collins, and I drop Wirtz to Gakpo, or I drop a Vanlinson back down to Strand Larsen. I'm not 100% sure those are the combinations in order to make it happen. That's the real player that I really want in my team that I currently don't have. I'm very happy with everyone else. I'm not non-happy about not having Haaland. I would like him, but it's just not feasible with everyone else I want to have. I've got captaincy options for every week. I've got a captain that plays a promoted team every single week for the first 5 weeks. So Jared Bowen this week, Saka the next week. Then I think it's Bruno. Then it's Cole Palmer, and then it's Watkins. So look, I've got the captaincy started for the first 5 weeks. So it's not like I really need the big guns, but that's how the team's looking up, and I'm quite happy with it at this particular stage. So the D-Unit hot takes. Spare yourself the pain and don't follow the cartel's double Spurs defence, which I'm sure has been updated because Review have currently upgraded their standings on Spurs post what they saw in the PSG game. PSG probably weren't even that fit and ready for the game. They also were at the Club World Cup final, so they haven't had much preparation. Spurs have had a full pre-season, so read into that what you want. And just remember, if you do go stupid and go double for Spurs defence, guess who they're playing in game week 2? Manchester City away, and you're going to sit there and ask yourself, why the hell did I do this? Why on earth did I follow that nonsense advice about Spurs defenders? That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to sit there and tell you not to pick them, even though I'm saying not to pick them. I just think they're a disaster waiting to happen. You're going to sit there and go, it'll be ironic. It'll be peak Spurs if Mickey van der Ven scores an own goal and it's a 1-0 Burnley win on Saturday or Sunday, whenever the game is. I'll be sitting there and I'll be here for it and I'll be absolutely enjoying it, truth be told. And Diane Anderson and Anderson are disasters waiting to happen. Forget the DC 3-4 points. You're going to get sick of it. I can guarantee you, here it is, my notepad, paper and pen. Fulham versus Brighton. Was that a clearance for Anderson? Was that a header? Was it a shaved header? Was it a deflection? What does that count as? Does that count as anything? We'll give it a half on the score. Who cares? It sounds so boring. As if you're going to sit there frothing at the mouth, looking at defensive contribution points. It's the biggest joke. Like, I think they could have added an extra 2 points in for a lot more other things other than that rubbish. Arsenal and United, difficult opening 6 fixtures. So for that reason, you can only pick the proven assets. And the proven assets are one, Bruno Fernandes. That dude ticks over regardless of the fixture. Ahmad's not far behind him, to be fair, in terms of Man United players. And then with Arsenal, it's obviously Saka. We know that Saka gets the job done. Doesn't matter what the team is. He is generally good to go, which is why I've got those 2 currently in my own draft. And they're likely to make it through to the end of the deadline. Brentford and Bournemouth, lots of people talking them down. I actually think they're going to be a lot better than people expect. People are thinking that Brentford are going to be in trouble of getting relegated and all the rest of it. I don't think so. I think they'll be perfectly fine. They've lost none of their defenders. Andrew's actually had a really good point about those 3 players that didn't pretty much play last year coming into the team. They also recruit really well. They've got a great analytics department down there, as does Bournemouth. I think they'll both be perfectly fine. They might have a rough couple of opening weeks, but they're not going to be anywhere near the relegation battle. Then, don't be shocked by Maresca's slot and Arteta roulette. It's coming. Their squads are next to level. They've got 2 players pretty much for every single position in the team, including the ones that Haaland, Salah and all that. They've got people to cover them. There's going to be roulette this year. There's going to be lots of rotation. I think this is going to be the biggest rotation year we've ever seen in our lives. And remember, Pep roulette. I'm already worried about reindeers in game week 1, but that's why I've got a good bench. You need to be aware of this. It's going to happen. Pep roulette will begin in the very first week of the season. We all know it will. And now, on to the funnest part of the new part of the late mail. And this is the cards calls. People have actually sent me these things and they want card tosses. So I'm going to spend 2 minutes card tossing these particular combos. And I'm going to tell you what it is. So the first option is always going to be this side of the card. The second option is always going to be that side of the card. And with that being said, let's get into it. So Haaland versus Salah. The card says Haaland. Pedro Porro versus Munoz. Ironically, it said Pedro Porro. Milenkovic versus Murillo. Milenkovic. Watkins versus Gyökeres. Watkins. Wow, I don't know what's going on in this card. It keeps landing on the one on the left. Anderson versus Reindeers. Come on. Reindeers. Yes, they're finally changed. It knows a dud player when it sees one. Ndai versus Kudos. Oh, look at that. That's another death for Ndai. Kudos. Bruno Fernandes versus Wirtz. It's gone with Wirtz. And Sells versus Sanchez. It's gone with Sanchez. There you go. That's the cards calls for game week 1. We're going to keep a running tally of them for every single week as well. So, yeah, get me in with those card calls that you want during the week in the comments on the videos that I put out, and I will endeavour to cover them, the best ones that I like in this particular part of the late mail. So that brings us to the end of the first edition of the Late Mail. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. That is hopefully put a bit of fun into your FPL content and a bit of entertainment in the lead up to the deadline stream later today. I'll be live 2 hours before the deadline. We're ready. We've got the timer ready to go. I'm ready. So let's go. FPL and the Premier League is back, baby, and the D-Unit's ready to go. I'll see you again soon. Smash that like button, and you know what? Smash that subscribe button as well. You know you want to. Stuff the cartel.